You wrote an article titled "Power Grid Attacks Surge and Are Likely to Continue," which is there's the heat, the natural issues, uh, climate change. There's the aging infrastructure. This to me sounds completely different, though. This sounds like targeted attacks on
Exactly.
infrastructure, which is, of course, not going to make anything any better or more manageable for people. So, if you could unpack what that article was about and who you assess to be behind these attacks.
Sure. Well, there was a series of attacks in North Carolina, or at least one very prominent attack on a Duke Energy substation that resulted in significant blackouts. And attacks on energy infrastructure are not new. This has been a risk that the utility industry has been grappling with for a long time. So when you think about it, I mean, this stuff is very much exposed, right? I mean, a substation might have a fence around it, but it's not that hard to find, and it's not that hard to target with a long gun. And um, this it's usually a substation. Not I can't say this for certain, but a substation attack. There's been that's usually what sort of makes the news if you're talking about a targeted attack on electric infrastructure. Um, and the industry has been trying to do more to safeguard these facilities, but to put you know a concrete dome over all these things, you can't do that, right? So it's there are several sort of regulatory bodies or quasi-regulatory bodies that are trying to do more to create standards by which utilities can work to make these things more hardened against these sorts of attacks. But I think the consensus is we live in a pretty politically polarized society. There's sort of interest among certain groups in who knows what, knocking out the power for all kinds of different weird political reasons. And um, uh, that risk doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. So fortunately, we haven't heard much since then. But there are also, of course, sort of folks in the national security realm who are trying to track chatter among those who might be planning these kinds of attacks. And it seems like that's become more of a full-time job lately, I think, if we just put it that way.
Yeah, I was looking at a stat here and it said in 2013, snipers took out 17 transformers critical to supply power to Silicon Valley, which I was living in California at the time. I never heard anything about this. Do you
Hmm.
know anything about that?
That was the Metcalf substation attack, right? Was that
I
2017? I
don't
thought it was a
know.
little earlier. It was,
2013 it says 17 transformers in 2013.
oh, 2013. Yeah. So I think if I'm recalling correctly, that was a big PG&E transformer. I mean, that was like one of the most prominent attacks we've seen over the last 20 years. Um, and I don't exactly know what the motive was. I don't quite know if it's possible that other people do and I don't, but it certainly underscored the fact that this can be very consequential, and and the fact that utilities definitely need to do more to safeguard these substations. So it's sort of yet another risk layered on top of everything else we've been talking about.
Well, and I think what we're talking about so far is individuals with some mechanism. It sounds like it's probably a long rifle at a substation. I was just thinking as you were talking about that, how would you protect these? If you're not looking for them, I bet you most people drive by them every day and don't realize they're there. And again,
100%.
where I live in rural Montana, as you were talking about that, I was thinking about my daily drive. Like, oh, I think I passed two of those, and they
Hmm.
are completely in the open. That chain link fence is really just doing its national security job. Definitely a deterrent for nothing whatsoever.